Commander Dae-jung stood in the underground war room beneath Geneva, staring at the holographic display of Council space. Red markers showed enemy fleet positions. Blue markers showed human forces. There were far more red than blue, but something had changed in the past 2 weeks. The red markers were retreating. Terra Nova is secure, reported Admiral Sang-ho from his flagship. The Council garrison surrendered this morning. They ran out of supplies and reinforcements never came. Because we destroyed their supply lines, Dae-jung said with satisfaction. What's our status on the offensive operations? A tactical officer pulled up new data. All teams are in position. Captain Sora's stealth missions have been successful. We've mapped every major Council military installation within 50 light-years. Dae-jung nodded. The war had entered a new phase. For 3 months, humanity had played defense, making every Council advance costly and painful. Now it was time to remind the galaxy that humans knew how to attack too. Begin Operation Mongoose, he ordered. Across Council space, things started going wrong all at once. On the Methodian homeworld, their primary military communication relay suddenly went offline. Engineers discovered it had been sabotaged from the inside, the work requiring intimate knowledge of their systems. On a Vrexian supply depot, dozens of fuel containers exploded simultaneously. The blast was so large it could be seen from orbit. Investigators later found small devices attached to each container, timed to detonate together. A Karathi troop transport carrying 5,000 soldiers simply vanished between jump points. Search teams found the wreckage a week later, its navigation computer filled with garbage code that had sent it into a star. These weren't random accidents. This was systematic warfare of a kind the Council had never experienced. Captain Sora Huang piloted her stealth frigate, Silent Thunder, through the outer reaches of a Council military system. Her ship was a marvel of human engineering, covered in materials that absorbed sensor waves and equipped with heat sinks that made it nearly invisible. Approaching target, her co-pilot whispered, as if speaking too loud might give them away. Torgath weapons facility, just like intelligence said. Sora guided her ship closer. The Torgath were the most militarily advanced species in the Council coalition. Their weapons technology was impressive. It would be a shame if something happened to it. Deploying infiltration team, she said calmly. 6 soldiers in advanced armor launched from the Silent Thunder, using small thrusters to cross the empty space. They landed on the facility's hull and cut their way inside. The Torgath had excellent external security, but hadn't considered anyone would be bold enough to physically board a military installation. 20 minutes later, the soldiers were back. Charges placed, the team leader reported. Set for delayed detonation. Sora's ship slipped away, invisible and silent. 3 hours later, the weapons facility erupted in a series of explosions. Years of research, thousands of advanced weapons, and the facility's irreplaceable manufacturing equipment, all gone. It was one of 12 such raids happening simultaneously across Council space. Humanity had spent months identifying high-value targets. Now they were hitting all of them at once. But the physical attacks were only half the strategy. The other half was invisible. Civilian resistance leader Bora Shin wasn't a soldier. She was a university professor who specialized in alien cultures. But she had discovered something interesting. Not everyone in the Council supported this war. Many species had been pressured into joining the coalition, against their will. She reached out to them. We don't want to fight. You, she told a Delphian merchant she'd contacted through encrypted channels. We just want to live in peace on our worlds. Help us end this war. The merchant was cautious. How can I help? I'm just a trader. You know things, Bora replied. Fleet movements. Supply routes. You hear what the military leaders are saying. Share that with us. Over the following weeks, Bora built a network of informants across Council space. Merchants who were tired of war disrupting trade. Scientists who thought the aggression was wrong. Common citizens who just wanted peace. They fed information to humanity, and humanity used it to stay one step ahead of the Council military. General Tae Young Lim commanded humanity's marine forces. He was 58 years old, had fought in the Mars Rebellion 20 years ago, and understood urban combat better than almost anyone alive. Now he was applying those skills to alien territory. His target was Methodia Prime, the bureaucratic heart of the Council. It seemed like an impossible objective, but Tae-young had learned that impossible just meant difficult with style. "We're not invading," he told his troops during the briefing. "We're liberating. The Methodians have 3 subject species on their homeworld, kept in servitude. We're going to free them and let them speak for themselves." His force was small, only 2,000 Marines, but they had support from Bora's intelligence network, advanced equipment, and most importantly, they had surprise. The Methodians never imagined humans would strike at their homeworld. The attack came at dawn. Marine dropships landed in the industrial district where the subject species worked. Tae-young's people moved quickly, securing key positions and broadcasting messages in the local languages. "We are humans," the message said. "We are here to help you claim your freedom. Join us or stay clear, but your master's control ends today." The subject species, who had been oppressed for generations, needed little encouragement. Within hours, they were rising up. The Methodian security forces found themselves fighting on 2 fronts, against both human Marines and their own former servants. Tae-young established a perimeter around the industrial sector and held it. His troops dug in, prepared for a long fight. But something unexpected happened. The Methodian government, rather than send their fleet to crush the rebellion, opened negotiations. "Why?" asked Tae-young's second-in-command. "Because we're broadcasting everything," Tae-young replied with a smile. "Every council species can watch what's happening here. The Methodians can't slaughter their own population on live feed. It would destroy their political standing." The negotiations dragged on for 3 days. In the end, the Methodians agreed to reforms. They would give the subject species more rights, more autonomy. In exchange, the humans would withdraw. It wasn't a complete victory, but it accomplished something more important. It showed the galaxy that humans fought for more than just themselves. They fought for justice, even on alien worlds. Counselor Thrax watched all of this with growing horror. His perfect coalition was falling apart. The Karathi had withdrawn, claiming their participation in the war was under review. The Phalians were making diplomatic overtures to Earth. Even some Vrexians were questioning whether revenge was worth this much blood. "We need to end this," his military advisor said. "Every day we continue, we lose more ships, more resources, more political support. We can't surrender to humans," Thrax protested. "We are the Galactic Council. We've maintained order for 1,000 years. And in 1,000 years you've never fought an enemy like this," the advisor replied quietly. "Sir, humans don't fight the way we do. They don't care about honor or glory. They care about winning, and they're very good at it." On Earth, Ambassador Hana received a surprising communication. It was from the new High Arbiter, elected to replace the position after Velnon's death. Her name was Nira, and she was a Delphian known for pragmatism. "Ambassador Lee," Nira said carefully, "I believe we should discuss terms." Hana felt a wave of relief, but kept her expression neutral. "I'm listening, High Arbiter." "The Council made mistakes," Nira admitted. "We underestimated humanity. We allowed pride and fear to guide our decisions. The result has been catastrophic for everyone involved." "You wanted to take our worlds," Hana pointed out. "You wanted to make us submit." "Yes," Nira agreed simply. "We were wrong. The question now is whether we can find a path forward that doesn't result in complete mutual destruction." Hana thought carefully before responding. She could be triumphant, demand harsh terms, make the Council pay for their aggression, but that would just plant seeds for the next war. "We want peace," she said finally, "but it has to be real peace. Not a temporary truce before you try again." "Agreed," Nira replied. "Let us meet. Neutral territory, and let us end this war before more good people die." Commander Dae-jung was less optimistic when Hana reported the conversation. "It could be a trap. They might use negotiations as a chance to regroup." "Then we stay vigilant," Hana said. "But Dae-jung, we can't fight forever. Our casualties are lower than theirs, but we're still bleeding. Every colony has lost people. Every family has suffered." Admiral Sang-ho agreed with her. "We've made our point. The Council knows not to underestimate us. Now we need to secure that knowledge with treaties, not more battles." Private Junho, now promoted to sergeant after 3 months of combat, sat in the ruins of what used to be a school on Terra Nova. His unit was resting after another skirmish with Council holdouts. He was exhausted, scared, and ready for this to be over. "You think there'll really be peace?" asked one of his soldiers, a young woman who had been a farmer before the war. "I hope so," Junho replied. "I really hope so." The chamber was silent except for the low hum of the translation devices. Ambassador Hana Lee stood alone at the center of the vast circular room, surrounded by representatives from 47 different species. Each one stared down at her from their elevated seats, their alien faces showing expressions she had learned to read over the past 5 years. None of them looked friendly. High Arbiter Velnon rose from his seat. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with scales that shimmered like oil on water. His species, the Vrexians, had conquered 12 worlds before joining the Galactic Council. They still remembered those victories with pride. The Council has made its decision, Velnon announced. His voice boomed through the chamber even without amplification. Humanity will surrender administrative control of 3 colony worlds within 72 hours. This is not negotiable. Hana felt her heart sink, but she kept her face calm. She had expected this, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. High Arbiter, those worlds are home to millions of human citizens. New Busan, Terra Nova, and Horizon's Edge were legally settled under Council guidelines. We have every right to— You have the rights we grant you, Councillor Thrax interrupted. He was smaller than Velnon, with gray skin and 4 arms that moved in constant nervous patterns. His species, the Methodians, ran most of the Council's bureaucracy. Humanity has expanded too quickly. You control 17 worlds after only 30 years in Council space. The Karathi took 300 years to reach that number. The Delphians took 500. We work hard, Hana said simply. Our colonies are productive. We trade fairly with all species. Why punish success? Velnon laughed, a sound like grinding stones. Punish? We educate. Humanity acts like children playing at civilization. You need to learn your place in the galactic order. Several other council members made sounds of agreement. Hana noticed that not all of them seemed comfortable with this, but none spoke up in humanity's defense. Fear kept them silent. Fear of the council's power, fear of being the next target. And if we refuse? Hana asked quietly. The chamber went completely silent. Even the translation devices seemed to pause. Velnon leaned forward, his massive hands gripping the rail in front of him. Then we will teach you what happens to species who defy the council, he said softly. We have been patient with humans. We allowed you to join us despite your violent history. We overlooked your aggressive expansion. We tolerated your strange insistence on individual freedoms. He straightened up. But patience has limits. Refuse this order and we will enforce it. Your small defense fleets will be swept aside. Your colonies will be occupied. And Earth itself will learn to be more cooperative. Hana stood perfectly still. She had been warned this might happen. Commander Daejung had told her that the Council was growing nervous about humanity's success. But she had hoped diplomacy could prevent this moment. I need to consult with my government, she said. You have 72 hours, Thrax replied. Use them wisely. The council session ended and Hana walked out of the chamber with her head high. Only when she reached her private shuttle did she allow herself to shake. She activated the secure communication link. Commander Kim, they did it. They actually did it. On the screen, Commander Daejung Kim looked tired but unsurprised. He was in his mid-50s with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. He served on Earth's Defense Council and was considered one of humanity's best strategic minds. I heard the whole thing, Daejung said. The transmission was live to all human worlds. People are angry, Hana, really angry. What do we do? She asked. We can't fight the entire Galactic Council. They have thousands of ships. We have maybe 200 and most of those are patrol craft. Daejung was quiet for a moment. We have something they don't expect. What's that? Home field advantage. He leaned forward. Hana, humanity has been preparing for invasion since before we left Earth. Every colony world was built with defense in mind. We learned from our own history. We know what happens to the unprepared. Hana thought about that. It was true. Humanity's expansion into space had been cautious despite its speed. Every colony had underground shelters. Every settlement had emergency protocols. Children learned basic survival skills in school. It was all left over from Earth's violent past when nations invaded each other and cities fell to war. You think we can hold them off? She asked. I think they're about to learn why you don't invade a human world, Daejung replied. But I need you to buy us time. Can you stall them? Make them think we might surrender? I can try, Hana said. But Daejung, they're serious about this. Velnon wants a fight. I could see it in his eyes. Then he'll get one. Just not the kind he expects. Daejung glanced at something off-screen. I have to go. The Defense Council is meeting in 10 minutes. We're activating Protocol 7. Protocol 7? Hana felt a chill. She knew what that meant. Protocol 7 was the plan for total war. Every military officer in human space would receive encrypted orders. Civilians would begin evacuation drills. Hidden weapons would be brought online. I hope it doesn't come to that, Daejung said. But if it does, we'll be ready. Safe travels, Ambassador. The screen went dark. Hana sat in her shuttle for a long time thinking. She remembered something her grandfather had told her when she was young. He had been a soldier during the Korean reunification, back when Earth was still divided. We Koreans know about being underestimated, he had said. Bigger nations thought they could push us around. But we survived. We adapted. We learned to fight smart instead of fighting big. Maybe that was what humanity needed now. Not big fleets and massive weapons, but smart thinking and careful planning. The Council expected them to surrender or to fight a conventional war they would lose. What if humanity did neither? Across human space, messages were being sent. On New Busan, Governor Minji Park received hers while inspecting a new agricultural dome. She read it twice, then called her defense coordinator. On Terra Nova, Captain Jiwon Choi was conducting routine patrols when encrypted orders appeared on her screen. She changed course immediately, heading for the hidden bases in the outer system. On Earth, in a military compound beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Sang-ho Yoon walked into a conference room filled with officers. The mood was tense but focused. These men and women had trained for this scenario. They had run simulations 1,000 times. The Council has given us an ultimatum, Sang-ho said without preamble. They want 3 of our worlds. They think we'll surrender because we're outnumbered. They think we're weak because we're new to space. He looked around the room at each face. They're wrong. Our ancestors survived the resource wars. They survived climate change and nuclear standoffs. They built civilizations from ruins more than once. We carry that strength in our blood. Admiral Sang-ho pressed a button and a star map appeared above the table. We won't let them take our worlds. But we won't attack first either. We'll prepare. We'll wait. And if they come, he paused. We'll remind the galaxy why humans are still here after everything we've been through. In her shuttle heading back to Earth, Hana composed a message to the Council. It was carefully worded, full of diplomatic language and requests for negotiation. It would buy them some time, maybe not much, but enough. She thought about all the humans living on those threatened worlds. Families, children, farmers, engineers, teachers, artists. Normal people living normal lives. They deserved protection. They deserved a chance to keep their homes. The Council thought humanity was weak because they were relatively new to space. They thought Earth's violent history was a sign of primitive behavior. They were about to learn that history had taught humanity something valuable. It had taught them how to survive, how to fight, how to win when everyone said they would lose. The 72-hour countdown had begun. Governor Minji Park was examining soil samples when the alarms began. She looked up from her microscope, confused for a moment. Then she remembered the drills they had been running all week. But this sound was different. This was the real warning. Governor, we have incoming ships, her assistant said, rushing into the laboratory. 23 vessels. Phyrexian signatures. Minji carefully set down her samples and walked to the window. New Busan's capital city spread out below her office tower, peaceful and green. 4 million people called this world home. She had been governor for only 2 years. Elected because of her work developing crops that could grow in the colony's unusual soil. She was a botanist, not a warrior, but she was about to become one. Get me Captain Choi, she said calmly, and activate the defense protocols. Across the city, sirens began to wail. People stopped what they were doing, looked at the sky, and then moved quickly toward the shelters. They had practiced this dozens of times. Parents carried children. Neighbors helped elderly residents. Within 15 minutes, the streets were empty. In orbit, Captain Jiwon Choi watched the Phyrexian fleet approach. She commanded New Busan's small defense force, only 6 patrol ships and 3 corvettes. Against 23 Phyrexian warships, they had no chance in a direct fight. Good thing nobody said anything about fighting directly. All ships, execute scatter pattern Delta, Jiwon ordered. Make them chase us. Lead them to the waypoints we marked. Her small fleet broke apart, each ship heading in a different direction. The Phyrexians followed, clearly amused. On the lead Phyrexian battleship, War leader Kroven watched the humans run. They flee like prey animals, he told his officers. This will be over quickly. The council will be pleased. Kroven had conquered 6 worlds in his long career. He had faced species that fought with honor and skill. These humans seemed like none of those. They had no battle formations, no discipline, no courage. He ordered his ships to pursue and destroy the fleeing human vessels. What he didn't notice was that the humans were leading him on a very specific path through the system. Past the gas giant's moons, through the asteroid belt, always staying just barely out of range. On the surface, Governor Minji received reports from her military coordinator. All civilians in shelters, Governor. Surface defense is coming online. What about the mining platforms? Minji asked. Ready when you are. Minji took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Do it. Throughout New Busan's orbital space, what looked like simple mining platforms suddenly changed. Their drilling equipment rotated, revealing something else underneath. Mass drivers. Huge electromagnetic accelerators that could throw chunks of metal at incredible speeds. They had always been there, hidden in plain sight. Every human colony had them. The council thought they were mining equipment. After all, who would build weapons platforms and disguise them as civilian infrastructure? Humans would. Humans who remembered how wars were fought on Earth. Humans who knew that the best weapons were the ones nobody saw coming. The mass drivers opened fire. Solid slugs of metal, each one weighing several tons, launched at speeds that made them nearly impossible to dodge. 2 Vrexian ships exploded immediately. 3 more were damaged, their shields overwhelmed by kinetic impacts. Kroven stared at his tactical display in shock. Return fire! Destroy those platforms. But the platforms were small, numerous, and scattered among real mining equipment. Hitting them meant destroying valuable infrastructure. And the humans had dozens of them. Captain Jiwon's small fleet turned around. Now the hunters became the hunted. Her ships used the asteroid belt for cover, popping out to fire missiles and then disappearing again. The Vrexians, used to open space battles, struggled to adapt. One of Jiwon's corvettes didn't make it. A Vrexian destroyer caught it in open space and tore it apart with plasma fire, but that destroyer paid for its kill. 3 of Jiwon's other ships converged on it, and the mass drivers finished it off. Kroven realized he was losing. This was impossible. These were humans, a species barely 30 years in space. They should be easy prey. Instead, his fleet was being torn apart. Pull back to high orbit, he ordered. We'll bombard the surface from range. His remaining ships climbed away from the planet's gravity well, out of range of the mass drivers. Kroven's rage grew with every lost ship on his status board. Fine. If the humans wanted to hide in their holes, he would dig them out. Target their cities, he commanded. Begin orbital bombardment. Down on the surface, Minji watched the Vrexian ships take position. She knew what was coming. All defense batteries prepare for bombardment. What the Vrexians didn't know was that New Busan cities were designed for this. Every building had reinforced shelters beneath it. The colony's real infrastructure was underground, protected by meters of rock and earth. The surface buildings were important, yes, but not critical. The bombardment began. Plasma bolts and kinetic strikes rained down from orbit, destroying buildings and cratering streets. It looked devastating. Kroven watched with satisfaction as human structures burned. Then something unexpected happened. Small satellites that had been orbiting quietly suddenly activated. They moved toward the Vrexian fleet and detonated. Electromagnetic pulse weapons flooded the area with radiation. 3 Vrexian ships went dark, their systems fried. They began drifting, powerless. Kroven's own flagship survived, but barely. Half his systems were malfunctioning. Where did those come from? He roared. Nobody had an answer. The humans had hidden weapons everywhere. It was like fighting an enemy who had prepared for this exact battle. Because they had. Every human colony was built by engineers who studied military history. They knew about Pearl Harbor, the Blitz, the sieges of countless cities. They knew what happened to the unprepared. In one of New Busan's underground facilities, engineer Hyunwoo Baek was having the strangest day of his life. He was a civilian, a programmer who designed irrigation systems. But right now he was staring at a damaged Vrexian corvette that had crashed in the northern continent. You want me to do what? He asked the military officer standing next to him. Hack it, the officer replied. Get into their systems. See if you can access their fleet network. I design farming equipment, Hyunwoo protested. I don't know anything about alien military technology. You're the best programmer we have in this sector, and we need this done now. So Hyunwoo found himself climbing into a crashed alien spaceship, stepping over debris and trying not to look at the dead Vrexian crew. He found a working terminal and started examining the code. It was strange, alien, but also familiar in some ways. Information systems followed certain patterns no matter who built them. He worked for 6 hours straight, his fingers flying over the interface he barely understood. Then he found it. A way into their communication network. And once he was in, he uploaded something special. A virus designed by Earth's best military programmers, adapted on the fly by Hyunwoo's civilian creativity. In orbit, Kroven was preparing another bombardment run when his systems went haywire. Navigation failed, weapons locked, life support started cycling randomly. Across his fleet the same thing was happening. What is this? He demanded. His officers had no answers. The virus was eating through their systems like acid through flesh. Captain Jiwon saw her chance. All ships full attack. Hit them now while they're blind. The small human fleet, reinforced by 2 more corvettes that had been hiding in the gas giant's rings, swept in. Missiles flew. The mass drivers kept firing. The Vrexian fleet, unable to coordinate or defend properly, began to fall apart. Kroven tried to retreat, but his navigation was compromised. His flagship entered the atmosphere at the wrong angle, too fast, systems failing. The last thing he saw was New Busan's surface rushing up to meet him. When the battle ended, 7 Vrexian ships were destroyed. 4 were captured, their crews surrendering once they realized they were helpless. The rest fled, jumping to faster-than-light speed without even waiting to regroup. Governor Minji stood on the surface as rescue crews searched the ruins. Her city was damaged, yes. Some buildings were destroyed. But the shelters had held. Casualties were in the hundreds, not the millions the Vrexians had expected. We won, her coordinator said, sounding amazed. We survived, Minji corrected. That's not the same thing. Captain Jiwon landed her battered ship at the military spaceport. She had lost good people today. 1 ship destroyed, 2 more badly damaged. But they had done what seemed impossible. Engineer Hyunwoo emerged from the crashed Vrexian corvette, exhausted and covered in strange alien fluids. Military personnel treated him like a hero. He didn't feel like one. He felt like a programmer who had just been through the worst day of his life. News of the battle spread quickly through the Galactic Council. The Vrexians had been defeated. Not just defeated, but humiliated by humans, by a species that barely knew how to travel between stars. High Arbiter Velnon received the reports in his private chambers. He read them 3 times, unable to believe what he was seeing. Kroven was dead. Over half his fleet was gone. The humans had somehow turned a peaceful colony world into a fortress. Counselor Thrax was more calculating in his response. This changes nothing, he told the council. It only proves that we need a larger force. Humanity must be taught its lesson. The emergency council session was chaos. Representatives shouted over each other in 47 different languages while translation devices struggled to keep up. Ambassador Hana Lee stood in the center once again, but this time the atmosphere was very different. You attacked a council fleet. Counselor Thrax shrieked, his forearms waving wildly. This is an act of war. They attacked us, Hana replied calmly, though her heart was racing. New Busan defended itself against an illegal invasion. We acted within our rights under council law. You destroyed our ships, a Vrexian delegate roared from the upper seats. You will pay for this insult. Hana looked directly at him. Your war leader chose to bombard civilian targets. He chose to ignore requests for negotiation. He chose violence. New Busan simply chose to survive. The chamber erupted in more shouting. But Hana noticed something interesting. Not all of the council members seemed angry. Some looked thoughtful. A few even looked worried. They were remembering that humans had just done something nobody expected. High Arbiter Velnon was dead, killed in the battle. The new acting arbiter was his deputy, but it was clear that Counselor Thrax now controlled the proceedings. He raised one hand for silence. The council cannot allow this defiance to stand, Thrax declared. Other species will see humanity's actions and believe they too can ignore council authority. We must respond with overwhelming force. How many ships did you have in mind? Asked a delegate from the Delphian Assembly. She was old. Her blue skin wrinkled with age, and she sounded skeptical. A coalition fleet, Thrax replied. 5 species, 300 ships. We will occupy all human colony worlds and establish direct council oversight of Earth itself. Humanity will learn humility. Hana felt cold. 300 ships. That was almost the entire council military force. They were serious about crushing humanity completely. I must consult with my government, she said. Consultation time is over, Thrax snapped. Tell your leaders they have 1 week to surrender unconditionally. After that, we come for all of you. Hana left the chamber and immediately contacted Earth. Admiral Sang Ho Yoon appeared on her screen, along with Commander Dae Jung and several other military leaders. We heard everything, Sang Ho said grimly. 300 ships. That's going to be difficult. Difficult? Hana felt hysteria rising in her throat. That's impossible. We have maybe 50 combat-capable ships across all our colonies. How do we fight 300? Dr. Yoonji Nam, a xenobiologist and cultural expert, spoke up from her position at the table. We fight smart. The council species have been at peace for 300 years. They've forgotten what real war looks like. But we humans, we remember. What do you mean? Hana asked. Yoonji pulled up a presentation. I've been studying council military history. They fight what we would call gentlemen's wars, set piece battles, formal engagements, honor-based combat. They think war is like a sporting event with rules. Commander Dae Jung smiled grimly. And we know war is nothing like that. Exactly, Yoonji continued. Humans have spent thousands of years perfecting the art of asymmetric warfare. We know about guerrilla tactics, false retreats, psychological operations, supply line disruption, and civilian resistance. The Council has no experience with any of that. Admiral Sang Ho leaned forward. So we make this costly for them. Every colony becomes a fortress. Every battle becomes a nightmare. We drag this out until they realize conquest is too expensive. What about civilians? Hana asked. The colonies are full of families, children, regular people living normal lives. We evacuate non-essential personnel, Dae Jung said. But everyone who stays needs basic military training. On Terra Nova, we're already implementing this. Every adult is learning how to handle weapons, set traps, and use emergency communication systems. On Terra Nova, Private Junho Kang was experiencing this firsthand. He was 23 years old, had enlisted in the Colonial Guard 2 years ago, and had never expected to see real combat. Now he was teaching civilians how to fight. This is a pulse rifle, he explained to a group of farmers and shopkeepers. It's simple to use. Point here, pull here. The gun does most of the work. You just need to aim properly. An older woman raised her hand. She reminded Junho of his grandmother. What if we don't want to fight? What if we just want to go back to farming? Hunyo understood that feeling. He didn't particularly want to fight either. Ma'am, the council fleet is coming. They've made it clear they're going to occupy our world. We can either defend ourselves or we can let them take everything we've built. I know which one I prefer. The woman nodded slowly. My grandfather fought in the Korean reunification. He always said freedom isn't free. I guess I'm about to learn what he meant. Across all human colonies, similar scenes played out. Engineers converted civilian equipment into weapons. Doctors set up field hospitals and underground bunkers. Teachers organized supply networks. Everyone contributed what they could. Captain Jiwon Choi, now promoted after her victory at New Busan, was training pilots in new tactics. Forget everything you know about space combat, she told her squadron. Standard military doctrine says you maintain formation, fight as a unit, retreat in good order. Throw all that away. A young pilot raised his hand. But ma'am, without formation we'll be disorganized. Exactly, Jiwon replied. We'll be chaotic, unpredictable, impossible to track. We'll hit them from unexpected angles, then vanish. We'll make them paranoid. Every asteroid, every comet, every piece of debris could be hiding a human ship. Let them worry about that. On Earth, Admiral Sang Ho oversaw the deployment of humanity's secret weapons. These weren't super advanced technologies. The Council actually had better shields, faster drives, and stronger weapons. What humans had were tricks learned from centuries of warfare, stealth systems based on Earth's old submarine technology. Cyber warfare programs that could infiltrate alien networks, psychological operations designed to make the enemy afraid, and most importantly, the willingness to fight in ways the Council considered dishonorable. They think we'll fight fair. Sang Ho told his staff. They're wrong. We'll fight to win. The week passed quickly. The Council coalition assembled its fleet from 5 different species. Phyrexians seeking revenge, Methodians enforcing their bureaucratic control, Karathi who feared humanity's rapid expansion, Felians who believed in council unity above all else, and the Torgath who simply enjoyed combat. 300 ships gathered at the edge of human space. It was the largest military force assembled in council history. Councillor Thrax watched from his flagship and felt satisfied. This would end human defiance permanently. "Proceed to Terra Nova," he ordered. "We'll make an example of that world first." The fleet moved out. Inside Thrax's command ship, military officers from 5 species coordinated their attack. They had studied the battle at New Busan and adjusted their tactics. This time there would be no surprises, or so they thought. As the fleet approached Terra Nova, they began noticing strange things. Ships detected on scanners that vanished when investigated, communication channels experiencing interference, small explosions in the outer system that seemed random but put everyone on edge. Private Junho and his unit were positioned in the mountains outside the capital city. They had spent the week setting up defensive positions. Trenches, hidden weapons caches, underground tunnels connecting different areas. It looked medieval, but it worked. "They're here," his sergeant announced. 300 ships in orbit. Ground troops will be coming soon. Junho checked his rifle one more time. His hands were steady, which surprised him. He should be terrified. Maybe he was too exhausted to be scared properly. The first assault shuttles came down like meteors, 50 of them carrying thousands of troops. They landed in what looked like a perfect staging area, a flat plain near the city. What the council troops didn't know was that plain was a trap. As soon as they disembarked, the ground erupted. Buried explosives detonated. Hidden weapons opened fire from the surrounding hills. The careful formation dissolved into chaos. Junho fired along with his unit. He didn't try to be a hero. He just aimed carefully, fired, moved to a new position, and fired again. Exactly like they had trained. In orbit, Captain Jiwan led her small fleet against impossible odds. 300 ships against her 12. But she didn't engage directly. Her ships used the planet's moon for cover, popping out to launch missiles and then disappearing again. They deployed small drones that mimicked ship signatures, making the Council fleet waste ammunition on phantoms. Admiral Sang Ho's Earth fleet arrived unexpectedly, hitting the Coalition's supply convoy in a distant system. They destroyed fuel tankers and ammunition haulers, then vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The battle for Terra Nova lasted 3 days. The Council forces technically won, establishing a presence on the surface, but they lost 40 ships doing it. 40 ships to take one world, and they still didn't fully control it because human fighters kept attacking from underground tunnels. Councillor Thrax stared at his casualty reports in disbelief. "How is this possible? We outnumber them 10 to 1. His military advisor, a Rexian general, looked grim. "Sir, they're not fighting like we expected. They attack, retreat, attack again from a different angle. They use civilian infrastructure as cover. They've turned, The neutral station hung in empty space between territories, built specifically for these negotiations. It was small, functional, and deliberately plain. No species could claim advantage here. Inside the main conference room, Ambassador Hana Lee sat across from High Arbiter Nira and representatives from a dozen council species. 6 months had passed since the war began. In that time, humanity had lost 4,000 soldiers and twice as many civilians. The Council had lost 63 ships and countless personnel. Everyone was tired. Everyone wanted this to end, but ending a war was harder than starting one. "Let us begin with apologies," Nira said. She was old for a Delphian, her blue skin marked with age and wisdom. The Council acted with arrogance and fear. "We tried to suppress humanity rather than understand them. For this I offer sincere regret." Councillor Thrax, still present despite his diminished influence, shifted uncomfortably. He had wanted to exclude him from these talks, but Nira insisted that all parties must face what they had done. Hana inclined her head. "Humanity also has regrets. We caused destruction on Methodia Prime. We killed Council soldiers who were following orders. War makes everyone do terrible things. But you fought only in defense," noted a Karathi representative. "Until the final month, every human action was reactive. You responded to our aggression, not the reverse." "That's not entirely true," Commander Daijung said from his position behind Hana. He had been invited as military advisor. "We struck Council installations across your territory. We conducted sabotage, espionage, and psychological warfare. We weren't innocent. You were defending your homes, the Karathi replied. There is a difference. The conversation continued for hours. Accusations, explanations, justifications. Slowly, painfully, both sides worked toward understanding. They talked about the Vrexian invasion of New Busan, the battle for Terra Nova, the raids on council facilities. Every action was examined, its necessity debated. Governor Minji Park had been invited to represent the colony worlds. She spoke about what it felt like to watch her city burn from orbit, knowing millions of people were hiding in shelters below. She spoke without anger, just sadness. We built New Busan from nothing, she said quietly. We turned a difficult world into a home. We grew crops, raised children, created art and music and life. Then you tried to take it from us. Not because we did anything wrong, but because you were afraid of us. Several council representatives looked uncomfortable. Thrax started to speak, but Nira silenced him with a gesture. You are right, Nira said simply. We were afraid. Humanity expanded so quickly. Your technology advanced so fast. Your influence grew so strong. We felt threatened. So you decided to attack us? Minji asked. How is that the action of a civilized government? It isn't, Nira admitted. It was the action of a government that had forgotten what it meant to be civilized. We had peace for so long that we forgot the value of it. We forgot that peace requires respecting others, not controlling them. Elder statesman Jin Ho-song spoke for the first time. He was 87 years old, had served as Korea's ambassador during the reunification, and was considered Earth's wisest diplomat. He moved slowly to the front of the room, leaning on a cane. I fought in a war once, Jin Ho said softly. When I was young, younger than most people in this room. I saw what humans do to each other when we forget our common bonds. I saw cities burn. I saw families torn apart. I saw children crying for parents who would never come home. He looked around the room, making eye contact with representatives from both sides. After that war ended, we had a choice. We could seek revenge, make the other side pay for their crimes, or we could seek peace, try to build something better. We chose peace. It was hard. There were people who hated us for it, who said we were betraying those who died, but we did it anyway because the alternative was to keep killing each other forever. Jin Ho paused, letting his words sink in. Now you all face the same choice. You can continue this conflict, keep bleeding each other until one side collapses, or you can choose to build something new, something better than what came before. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Nira spoke. What do humans want? What are your terms for peace? Hana had prepared for this question. She pulled up a document and displayed it for everyone to see. First, full recognition of human sovereignty over all our current colony worlds. No council authority over our internal affairs. Agreed, Nira said immediately. Second, reparations for damage caused during the war. Not to punish the council, but to help rebuild what was destroyed. Reasonable. We will discuss amounts. Third, and most important, reform of council governance. The system that allowed this war must change. This caused murmurs around the room. Thrax finally spoke. You want to restructure the entire Galactic Council? That's unacceptable. We have maintained order for 1,000 years. And that order just led to the worst war in council history, Commander Daejong pointed out. Your system is broken. It allowed aggressive species to dominate peaceful ones. It let fear drive policy. It must change or this will happen again. What kind of changes? Asked the Karathi representative carefully. Hana outlined the proposal. Equal voting rights for all species, regardless of how long they've been members. Term limits for council leadership, independent oversight of military actions, mandatory mediation before any use of force, and most importantly, constitutional rights that protect individual species from council overreach. You're describing a completely different organization, Thrax protested. Yes, Hana agreed, because the old one tried to destroy us. We won't accept peace unless the structure that enabled this war is reformed. Nira considered this carefully. You're asking us to give up a great deal of power. We're asking you to share power more fairly, Hana corrected. The Council can still serve its purpose of maintaining galactic stability, but it needs to do so through cooperation, not domination. The negotiations continued for 3 weeks. Every detail was debated, every term examined. There were moments of anger, moments of frustration. Representatives walked out of sessions, then returned the next day to try again. Dr. Yoonji Nam provided crucial help during this process. As a xenobiologist and cultural expert, she helped bridge communication gaps. When discussions stalled over misunderstandings, she explained each species' perspective to the others. The Vrexians aren't being stubborn about military protocols because they're aggressive, she explained to the human delegation during a break. They're doing it because honor and military tradition are central to their culture. We need to find ways they can maintain their dignity while accepting necessary restrictions. Her insights helped both sides find compromises. The Vrexians got to keep their traditional military structure, but agreed to external oversight. The Methodians accepted democratic reforms but retained their administrative expertise. Each species gave something and gained something. Private Junho, now back on Terra Nova, watched the negotiations on public broadcasts. He sat in a rebuilt cafe with members of his unit, all of them trying to return to normal life. It was harder than he expected. You think it'll work? Asked his former soldier, the woman who had been a farmer. The peace treaty? I hope so, Junho replied. I don't want to fight another war. Once was enough for a lifetime. We won, though, another soldier pointed out. We proved we could beat them. We survived, Junho corrected, echoing Governor Minji's words from months ago. That's not the same as winning. Winning would have been if the war never happened at all. Finally, after 23 days of negotiation, agreement was reached. The Treaty of New Horizons, named for one of the colony worlds that had been threatened but never attacked. It was comprehensive, covering everything from reparations to military conduct to governance reform. The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Representatives from all parties signed the document using traditional methods from their cultures. Nira signed with blue ink using a Delphian ceremonial pen. Thrax signed reluctantly with his genetic marker. Hana signed with a simple brush, writing in Korean characters that were translated for the audience. Jinho Song signed last, using the same pen he had used to sign the Korean Reunification Treaty 60 years earlier. His hand shook slightly, but his signature was clear. Let this mark the beginning of true cooperation, Nira announced. Let the galaxy remember the cost of this conflict and choose wisdom over fear. The consequences of the treaty were immediate and far-reaching. The council underwent restructuring, with new elections held for all leadership positions. Nira was elected as High Arbiter under the new system, but with limited powers and term limits. 3 species that had been subjugated within the council gained independence. The subject populations on Methodia Prime got autonomy and representation. Military oversight committees were established with representatives from multiple species. And humanity, the newest member of galactic civilization, suddenly found itself in a position of unexpected influence. Other species, particularly smaller ones who had been dominated by the major powers, looked to humans as allies. Captain Sora found this strange. She was drinking in an Earthbar 6,